Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Carol Ray, and I am the owner and founder of Notary2PRO. I'm a national trainer for Notary Signing Agents. I want to introduce you to a good friend and colleague of mine, Ronnie Mickle. He's the owner of Unlimited Ink Notary out of Arizona. And we have had other videos before that have been very successful because Ronnie is very bright, knows this business inside and out, and has a lot to add to notary signing agents and what they need to know to do their best and to really create successful business. So hi, Ronnie, nice to see you.
Hi there.
Okay, I think that the first thing that we're going to talk about is about the craft of being a notary signing agent. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about that?
Well, we're talking today about getting more business. And one of the things that I see is when notaries first start out, or if they've been doing it a while, they want to get more business. And we see this on, Facebook forums. There's probably about 4 or 5 really saturated forums, and also, Notary Rotary and the Notary Cafe forums. We see signing agents out there looking for business, and I don't see them talking about perfecting their craft. And one of the things that I take great pride in for myself is that I constantly am looking at different types of loans that I've never done before. I went through reverse mortgages. I went through loan applications. I feel like once you have a foundation of being a notary, I see a lot of notaries who survive off of just refinances, which is what a lot of signing agencies do. My company does sellers and buyers refinances, loan applications. We don't do that many reverse mortgages, but I do hire notaries who know how to do them. And I feel like you should start with a really good foundation like Notary2Pro. And I know that I feel like every time I'm with you, it's like a commercial for Notary2Pro, but it's not. I actually use Notary2Pro graduates, and we put in our orders when they go out all over the country that we look for Notary2Pro graduates. They get first preference because they have that foundation, and I've never had a problem with a Notary2Pro graduate. So I feel like perfecting your craft is a huge part of getting more business. I go back to this phrase, and I don't want to be labeled as a spiritual guy or anything like that, but I love this phrase. You give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, and you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And I feel like even after Notary2Pro, there's so many things, and that's why you do these videos, and that's why you participate so much in the notary forums, because there's always something to learn. So I feel like scheduling time to perfect your craft and be prepared for the things that come at you instead of waiting for them to come to you is a huge part of getting more business. When you're able to answer questions that you haven't dealt with personally before based on the things that you've learned, it makes you more valuable. And so perfecting your craft is probably the first and foremost, most important thing you can do to get more business.
Other things that you can get business with are things like Google and Yelp and listings, different listings for general notary work as well as signing agent work. So you have experience with that. Why don't you talk about that a little bit too?
Well, so I actually have a lot of clients that I got from my Google and Yelp listings. So I know a lot of notaries, once they realize how much they can make on good paying signings, they really strive for that. But if you're looking to increase business, you definitely need a Google, a Yelp, and you need to make sure that your listings are filled out properly. I'm going to be doing videos on that on Notary Stars very soon, and I know that other people have done videos, so please go look for those if you're looking today how to increase business. But Google gets you business from the general public, and general notaries you should be fair priced about. One of my biggest clients here in Arizona is an attorney that hires us at least 2-3 times a week, which is 2-3 signings a week times 4 weeks a month. That our notaries do signings. Most of them we don't print anything. We just go take photographs of an ID, upload them to the portal so that they can download them, and they sign a few documents and scan them back. And it's really only a few documents, and they pay almost $100. It's about $90, and we pay the notary $70 to $75, which are great signings. It's not our biggest client, but it is regular business. And I got that because one night he called me off of a Google listing, and he needed one document done down the street. I charged him $25, and that $25 turned into a year's worth of business, almost 2 years now. And so I think it's important that we never look back. Just this week, I actually have it set up now that I'm in this work, live, play kind of location. We have a conference room downstairs and conference rooms upstairs. And I actually turned it on where while I'm here working, if someone wants to book a notary session with me, I charge a $5 location fee because I actually go to the signing room, and they can book. And I did a signing this week, and I got a great review on Yelp. Turns out I was signing, and I won't talk too much about it, but the person that I was signing for, what they were doing was nothing related to real estate, but they were a realtor, and they really loved how I handled their documents. Their documents actually came with an improper notary block, and I stopped the signing and said, listen, I'm going to walk down to my office. I'm going to print you an Arizona notary block, the one that you have. It just had the state and the county and the signature for the notary and no language. And I said, you know, if you're intending to use this in the future, this won't fly. And I said, I'm going to go get you the proper attachment. And I brought an all-purpose jurat and an all-purpose acknowledgement, explaining the difference between the two and allowed them to choose. And, you know, now they're advocating for me with their title agency that they work with. And they were saying, wow, you know so much about this. And I told them about my company. They took my card. And sure enough, they sent an email out to 2 title companies that they work with saying, we want him to do our signings. And so, and it's not just me, because I only work as a group now and as a signing agency. I don't just do individual signings anymore. So that's great for my team that's an endorsement. And that came from Google and Yelp listings.
That's terrific. You know, you've mentioned Notary Stars. I think we should address Notary Stars a little bit for those of those out there that don't know about it. Could you tell us a little bit about what you've created? I think it's fabulous, but tell us what it is.
So I love to talk about Notary Stars. So Notary Stars is completely separate from Unlimited Ink. I want to address 2 things right at the get-go, because there's a particular person out in the world that says, I stole her business idea, and I didn't. So want to address that. And there's also that same person has said that I have done a lot of things bad. And I'm just going to say right now, Notary Stars is a good thing. First of all, it's a positive forum for notaries. It's a directory for notaries. They can list themselves, and it acts as a Google and Yelp. Right now we have about over 500 members and growing. I mean, people are signing up 2, 3, 4 a day. We are advertising it, but it is coming from the people that we've worked with all across the country. We are giving until the end of the year free listings for life for Notary2Pro graduates, meaning they will never have to pay for the listing. We have started free training, which we've listed on the site, and we start with our first video and our last video saying we never consider ourselves a Notary2Pro course. We know very well that you are the best foundation that a notary can get. Our videos are very short, and they are designed to go one by one. You can watch them on your YouTube, on your TV if you have it, or on your phone. We suggest watching on a TV or computer. But there are short videos over each document in a long package consecutively, how you can execute those documents, best practices, things that can go wrong. And I'm very proud of these. I mean, they're time consuming to make, but I'm getting like what I call fan mail about thank you so much. Like, you know, these videos are amazing. When are you going to put more? And that's very rewarding, but we're doing it because the same thing that we talked about earlier, notaries need to be able to have a place that they can go and continue their education, especially if they're new, if they've rusty, if they stepped out of the field for 2-3 days. I meant 2-3 years. So I know some notaries that worked for 1.5 years and then go work somewhere else and then come back because they didn't like that job, or maybe they needed a change, or maybe their industry sank. For whatever reason, these videos are there to kind of stay up to date. And I feel like we've also done a really good job. So the directory works to compete with Google and Yelp, which can cost you money to advertise on as well. This is free. You can get a free listing on Notary Stars. There is a $5 upgrade to boost yourself in the rankings. We go in and we verify the information. And then another thing is our hiring list that we have, I'm very proud of. I am personally going to every company, checking them out. There's about 500 companies between Notary Cafe, Notary Rotary, 123 Notary, where you can sign up, but then you go to them and they're closed, or they are not hiring notaries directly anymore. They're on signing order or SnapDocs. Well, what we found is there's actually people that you can still call to get on their list and get boosted up. They can all have a favorite notary on SnapDocs and signing order. So we're finding out who that contact person is, how to get in touch with them, warning notaries about interacting with certain companies because they can control your reputation. If they're on SnapDocs, their feedback, or they're on signing order, their feedback, if shared, goes to everyone who uses that platform. And that's very dangerous for a notary. If you burn a bridge, you're now burning bridges possibly with all the companies that use that platform. So it's very important for notaries to know that. So we're adding that into the hiring list. We are not a review site. We are not reviewing any of these companies. They're not allowed to be reviewed on Notary Stars. Those companies are being approached to allow them to list up into 10 locations throughout the country. So you will start seeing signing agencies on there, but their reviews will be disabled. It's part of a business package that we've come up with. But when we verify them, they're going on the hiring list. And then we're also partnering up with these companies that later in 2020, when someone signs up on Notary Stars, their information will also be sent to these companies. So we're working really hard. You know, it's just me and 2 or 3 other people from my team working on it. It is a lot of work. It's definitely a part-time job after hours for me. So there's sometimes I'm not sleeping. But I love Notary Stars, and I love that we submitted it to Google a couple weeks ago, which we talked about on TNT. And you can already start to see the listings competing with Google and Yelp listings. The name of the game is bringing everybody into one positive forum. And then the SEO power of that, the more people that are listed on Notary Stars, the more it's going to rise above. And it could be, you know, a very positive direction. And we're listing people like companies like Notary2PRO. We have another notary coach on there. We are endorsing his book. We're looking at all the training material out there. We're even looking at Facebook groups and telling you which Facebook groups to join and where you can get the most support from. So it's just an informational highway for our industry, but done in a very, very positive way, because we all know if you've been on any of the sites that are existing, they're just complaint forms now. And I don't want a complaint form site. I want a site that says, where can I go find business? Where can I find work? How can I do my job?
Well, one of the things that you and I had talked about, and you felt, I think that you felt like you were kind of overstepping things, because we've been working close together. You appreciate my graduates. I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm very proud of my graduates, but there's a limited amount of material that you can present to people in any training program. We're not talking about 4 years, for your master's program. We're talking about a training program that will get people going, set the foundation for what they're doing. And I believe that we're doing a good job. I think I give them what they need to get them started. But I know by no means would ever tell my students, don't go and look at these videos that are available to you now at Notary Stars. I think you've taken what should be my responsibility, but who would want to take a 40-hour class online to get, I couldn't even do it in 40 hours. If I had to take everything out of my brain and put it out there on a court, in a classroom, I couldn't do it. And so the things that you're adding and going through these various documents and all of the things that people can gain from coming to you and other programs out there. Everybody knows I work very well with Bill Soroka, who is the notary coach. He goes beyond and shows people how to really get into areas that will propel them to more business, more money. Laura Brewer, is a good friend of mine, and we're partners in that too, and what she has to add to it. The idea is that we are a community, and those of us that are educators and mentors, we look at these things not as competition that's going to hurt us. This is only going to make all of us better. So I want you to know that I appreciate what you're doing with Notary to Stars.
I appreciate that. I really look up to you a lot, and especially I was actually really scared in the beginning to attempt to be a mentor, but this is a dream that I've had for 2 years, and people do turn to me a lot. And the problem is that I run a signing agency, and that's what I love doing. And I have to train notaries for my signing agency. And then I turned to you when I got too busy and I couldn't. I contacted you and said, Miss Carol, I need your help. And it has increased our quality. I love working with you. And the things that I'm doing are when I'm not available as a mentor, I want to be able to say, but we have a video for that, or we can do that. I want to be able to still be accessible, and I also want to be free. So the videos that we created are free. That's the big thing. The pre-recorded training, we will never charge for it. It's there. We are charging for a notary boot camp in January. It's where we're doing 1 week a month to kick off 2020, whether it be for review or new notaries who are trying to really nail it in 2020. It's a $99 session for every week. We're doing a live 2 hours a night. We're going to go over a buyer's file. We're going to go over a refinance the next week, a seller file, miscellaneous documents, and most common errors to try to help people in the slowest month of the year get ready for the rest of the year. But we still say we're not a certification course. This is just, people who know what they're doing. It's me and Heather Stubblefield. We know what we're doing. We know what we're looking for. It's not geared toward our clients specifically. It's geared toward all loans, all signing agencies and lenders. I think a notary boot camp is be fun. And then we're adding in, Sunday Fun Days, our version of it, Sunday Sign Up Fun Days, where we sign up together. Because one of the biggest problems, and we're going to talk about in a few minutes, because I want to get back to our notes here, is I hear notaries who want business and then they don't go sign up for the 10 companies that I tell them to go sign up for. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, but that's another thing Notary Stars is going to start bringing to the table is, at least scheduling once a month to sign up with companies. Whether you do it as a group or do it by yourself, you got to constantly be looking and signing up.
And that was one of the things that we wanted to talk about. And I'd like for you to talk about what it takes. We have a list of 125 companies that we've had for years that really love our graduates. They're putting our graduates to work with no experience. A lot of them, you tell them you're a Notary2PRO graduate, you're getting work almost right away. And that's a phenomenon. But I earned that. I was a signer for 14 years, and I developed a relationship with a good many of these companies. And because of that, they trust me to begin with, and then they've slowly trusted my graduates. But one of the things that just drives us crazy is that we give people every opportunity for success. They just have to get out there and do it. And as well as I do, you can show people, do this, and you're going to be successful. So talk about the signups when you give them the names of companies and when we give them the name and what they can and can't do.
Yes. So I showed a spreadsheet earlier in the year when we did a launch about Notary Stars before we did our second video. So there's over 500 companies listed out there that hire notaries. And I will tell notaries my top 15, when they call me and say, I'm needing more work, I love working with you. And I'll tell them, these are the companies that I would sign up with immediately. They'll call me 3 weeks later and say, I got a little busy. So-and-so called me. Do you have any more companies? I'll say, did you sign up with the companies I gave you? And they always say, no, I got busy and I stopped. And, I'm not bragging because I do well for myself. My company does well, but I still to this day sign up with everything that crosses my eyes. I make a note of it, I take a screenshot of it. I bookmark it on the website, and I find time to sign up with those companies. And it's taken 10 years, and some of those companies are out of business, and some of them change names and change ownership. And I know that you have your list for graduates, and I tell notaries every time I refer them to you, I say, Ms. Carol has a list of over 100 companies. I know you said 125. I say over 100 companies. And if you just contact them, and I have a testament of that. I have 2 notaries here that I hand trained before we made our partnership. And they had come to me, and this is probably about 2 years ago, and I was right on that line of saying, I can't do this anymore. Notaries would call me and be like, Ronnie, we heard from the UPS store, whatever. And I got they're the last 2 that I hand trained, and they're actually 2 of my managers now. They took my training, and they took your training when I requested my entire team to do it. But after they got their Notary2Pro and they put it in signing order and signed up with some of your companies, they told me, they were like, wow, like these companies just started calling us out of nowhere. And I was like, it wasn't out of nowhere. It's because you put your Notary2Pro in there, and now they know who you are, and you contacted them. They were, you have your list, and then I ask some of the notaries who graduate from you, because then they come back to me and want to work, because they know I'm very outward about hiring Notary2Pro graduates, and they say, oh, I just graduated, and I'm like, great, let's get you on our list. But then I asked them, do you sign up with Ms. Carol's other companies? No, we just saw you in a video. And I'm like, but that's not how it works. You can't just sign up with one company. You have to sign up with a lot. I have busy days and slow days. Actually, Friday, we didn't receive one order, and normally my phone and iPad and everything's going off. I actually was sitting with another notary in here, and I was like, something scary is happening. Turns out all of our clients were in meetings. They had already pre-scheduled, but it was kind of crazy quiet from like 8 to 11, and that hasn't happened in a long time. And I was like, is the internet on? Like, is the phone line down? But then they came in like a flood when they all left their meeting. Yeah, it all came in like a flood, and I knew everything was fine. There's a couple of signing services that I hear from. It was just a fluke that it was just like these 5 hours of like, what happened? And then I thought maybe I should start signing up with more companies. But everything worked out. But I think that notaries have to sign up with as many companies as possible, and that means either dedicate your morning. The first thing that you're going to do every morning is get up and sign up with another company, or schedule 5 hours per week where you can sign up with multiple companies and say, I'm going to sign up with 2 to 5, as many. Some of them have longer processes. And go and keep a spreadsheet of your name, your username, your password, who your point of contact is, and follow up with that company to make sure they got your information and mark it on that spreadsheet. That's one thing, a project that we have for Notary Stars is giving you a spreadsheet that you can access and put all your information in. You'll download it. It'll be yours. You can put it on your Google Drive. Something that we do as our group here. You gotta just do that. And that's why on Notary Stars, we're going to start doing Notary Sign Up Sundays. It came from an Instagram post I did this past Sunday when we were brainstorming, and I added 10 more companies to our hiring list. And I posted it, 10 more companies added today on our hiring list, got a lot of likes and such. And then I thought, this would be actually like a fun day to do, like a meeting once a month. Everybody goes out and does their Sunday fun day, and, whatever that means to them. A lot of people means drinking. But what about a day where notaries get together online and say, okay, we're going to sign up with this company today. This is their website. Everybody go here. We're going to download these documents and get it done. And then there's accountability for it. So we're going to see how that goes in the new year.
I tell my students, you've got to be the squeaky wheel too.
Mm-hmm.
You have to. You can't just make one phone call, think you're on their database, and sit around and wait for them to call. You've got to make sure that they have all of your information, and that let's go talk about the profiles. We touched on that the last video, but you gave such good advice. I'd like for you to repeat.
Yes, and while I'm doing that, if you don't mind, this will only take a second. I'm going to actually pull up a profile. I'm not going to show it on the screen, but I'm going to read it. And this is something that I did not plan, but I can find it in just a moment. Let's see. Okay. So the first thing that I want to talk about with profiles is if your profile reads, I never miss initials, dates, signatures, or anything with the right of cancel, take it off your profile right now. It is a huge flag that you have improper training because you never guarantee things that you cannot give 100% guarantee on. We're all going to miss something. And when I see these profiles, and there's now hundreds of them around the country, because it's a copy and paste thing, it needs to be removed from your profile. It is becoming a red flag because we're all going to miss something. And believe me, it is going to remind someone when you miss something, and it's going to reflect bad on your colleagues from where they learn to copy and paste that too. That is not an accurate statement, and you should not be promising that to your clients. So that's the first thing I have to say. Never put never. Also, never advertise 24/7. Give your real business hours. If you don't take signings at 8 o'clock at night, don't say 24/7. This has been a rule since I started. It's false advertisement. It doesn't build relationships or trust. People want to be able to contact you when you say you're available. So your profiles, I want to just touch on this again. We have a video about that. We did a whole major video on that, which I hope people will go back to. Photos, an honest bio, give your honest experience, list the companies that you work with. If you've made mistakes, if you know that you're possible to make mistakes, which we all are, say, if I make a mistake, I will be willing to return and fix it, and then live up to that. Don't say you never do something that you most quite possibly will do.
Very good. And I always taught my students, it's not just saying, okay, I'll go back and fix it. It's being concerned. It's being gracious and saying, oh my gosh, I made this mistake. I am so sorry. What can I do to fix this? What's the best way for me to get out there and handle it as quickly as possible? And I made mistakes. Oh my goodness, I did. And I was a basket case when I did. But the way I handled it, I never lost one customer, not one customer over a mistake.
I have lost quite a few notaries, Miss Carol, and I'm going to tell you, I love that we're on this subject, and I want to stick to how to get more business, and I didn't mean to cut you off. One thing that my biggest pet peeve is when we ask a notary to fix something and they argue why it needs to be fixed, or they argue anything. I mean, the name of the game is everything is signed, signed and dated, initialed properly, and the notarization blocks are correct. If there's notaries who make honest mistakes, I'm sure that they didn't see it, or they just don't know how to do it right. For instance, crossing out the state and the county, initialing that, and then doing it. We have some notaries who say, well, I've never initialed it before. It doesn't matter. The way that it's done is you do that. And when you're asked to make a correction, especially if you don't have to return to a signer, I will never work with that notary again if we get back talk. I believe in your philosophy. It's not the mistakes we make that people remember. It is how graciously we fix them. I have no patience with notaries who will argue if they're right or wrong when it's clearly wrong. If they need to be mentored or coached, I can work with that. But if they're not nice about making a correction that's their fault, we won't work with them again.
The attitude of, I didn't do that. I couldn't have done it. I wouldn't have missed a signature on a grant deed. So go find somebody else because I'm not going back. I did it already. That's dead. You're dead as far as that company's concerned. So, yeah.
And today with the internet, I have to tell you, I mean, I wish I could show you, but I can't. You know, I'm looking up at a zip code now, and there's lots of great feedback out there, but the ones that we go through, we actually, if you have one negative feedback, we blacklist you. You never work with us again. And I hate to be that way, but I can't show my clients that the last feedback you have is negative. They don't want you at the table. And it's not that hard. If it's something that, I've actually had a notary tell me, you know, they got a bad review, and I called the company and I got them to take it off because it was an honest mistake, and they went back and fixed it, and they didn't charge more, and they did everything, and that company said, you know, you're right. But when I read the stories, I actually read them before I blacklist them, and I hear stories like they charged us more to go back and correct something. They charged us more for this, or they didn't want to do it. I just blacklist them, and they never show up in our searches, and we'll never hear from our signings again. And I have no problem with that. And they've never even worked with us before.
And you're not going to blacklist people who make an honest mistake and get out there and, apologize and go fix it. You're not talking about that. You're talking about people who make mistakes, won't take the responsibility.
And won't take the responsibility. We have 2 notaries on our local Arizona team who I've actually let our clients know they have negative feedback on their profiles from other companies. We actually don't put negative unless you burn somebody's house down or lose their documents. Even if you make a mistake and you backtalk us, we don't put negative. We might blacklist you from our company, but we won't put the negative feedback on you. We just don't. But we have 2 notaries that have received negative feedback from other companies, and I've let my clients know they will continue to work with us because they fix their mistakes, and they do well for us. And that's why I don't put negative feedback, because a lot of the negative feedback you can put is permanent and it will haunt them. I also take into consideration before I blacklist from negative feedback, if a person's last negative feedback was 2015 and it's, we're about to be in 2020, that shouldn't be taken into consideration. People learn from their mistakes. A good example, and I won't name names, but we had one of the graduates who her feedback was really bad, and she was working with us and doing okay, but then I let her know, you either need to get your feedback up, and she had gotten feedback that she was pigeonholing, which is taking a signing, agreeing to the fee, and then requesting more money before she drops the documents. She got 2 feedbacks like that. Then she got another feedback saying that she was rude with the customers and talking bad about the title agency. These were not reviews that I put on, but I can read them from other companies she's working with. And I let her know, I said, you seem lovely with me, but it makes me really nervous to work with you. And we went another month, and she called me and said, I'm not getting any signings. I said, yeah, we let you know. I said, but if you want to work on getting your feedback back, I'll send you out on some signings, and we'll definitely put the positive feedback out there for you. But when other people put negative, you have to act the same way with me that you do with the other companies. Just because I pick up the phone and talk to you doesn't mean that you shouldn't act that way with other companies, because they have just as much right to review you.
Very good. Profiles.
Yes. So making sure that you have your photo, make sure that you list any equipment you have, mobile printer, mobile scanner. This day and age, I've said it before, I'll say it again, you need to have one. I think that your bio should be honest. You should list the companies that you work with, Fidelity, Amrock, Zone Signings. People know these names. When you say I've worked with them, you're building credibility way more than saying I never miss an initial date or signature. Everybody knows if you work with Amrock, you truly have to be good, because if you miss one signature, you're not going to work with Amrock for 30 days. So we call it Amrock jail over here in Arizona. But being honest about your profile, it's very important. But I want other people to go back and watch our first video and continue on about how to get more business, because I think we have some really great points to kind of finish up over.
This is a very good thought, and that's being realistic with your time when you're accepting the assignments. Some people will take more than they could possibly do, try to jam it all together, and they do nothing but get themselves into trouble. So talk about that a little bit, because I'm sure you've seen a lot of that.
Yes, I see it every week, actually, where we hire a notary. They say, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can scan back. Yes, I can get this in a drop. And then they get another call, and they say, I can do your 11 a.m. I only have a 9:30. And they take that 11 a.m. and they run with it. And then our scan backs are delayed, and then they don't make drop. So I see this every week, and those notaries get not calls anymore, unless in an emergency. I can understand. I still go out and do signings early morning and late evenings and on weekends. I was out doing 2 signings this morning. I feel like it's important for me to still do signings. I don't have to do them anymore, but I feel like it's still important because I coach and mentor so many notaries, and I feel like it's important for me to be at the table and remember what it's like to be a signing agent. I feel like being realistic with your time. So I took a signing this morning at 9 and I took one at 11, and I checked the zip codes in between. I checked all of the requirements before I accepted the second assignment. I feel like you have to look at your assignments as they come in, not 3 days after you get them. Look at them as they come in. Make sure you're calendared properly. If you know that lender has a big package, schedule time. If you don't know that lender has a big package and you don't know that lender or that title agency or that signing company, give yourself at least 2 hours in between signings, unless they're in the same zip code and, just down the street from each other. But we all know rush hour. We all know if a company wants scan backs, you have to give yourself time. Would you rather make $600 today, or in a great case, which I've done before, $8,000, $9,000 in a day as a single signing agent and never make it again? Or would you rather have a steady income of $500, $300, $600 because you scheduled properly? So don't take assignments without properly scheduling. Part of being a business owner, which we all are, just because I own a signing agency doesn't make me a business owner. I was a business owner when I was just a notary signing agent. And when you're a business owner, regularly posted hours, being available during those hours, scheduling properly, letting your clients know what you can and cannot handle. You may not be the favorite person to call, but when it comes down to it, they will know when they call you, they're going to get an honest answer. And that's more important. That's gold. That's gold. It's gold. Mm-hmm. There's no other way to explain that.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Now you say here, be unique, but do not go overboard.
Yes, and I want to bring these 2 points in at the same time. So being unique is okay. I have a unique way. People have joked for years. When I became a signing agent, I started answering the phone, "This is Ronnie," and I still answer the phone that way. And my husband jokes and laughs at me sometimes. He like makes fun of me the way I answer the phone. That's unique. That's not overboard. I like to answer the phone so they know when they're calling who they're getting. They already know that they're calling me. They already know that they're calling Unlimited Ink. So I just tell them who they're answering, who they're calling when they answer. So it gets right to the point. I call notaries sometimes and they're like, I gotta make up a name here. Okay, I'm making up a name, and I hope no one has this name, but this is the iPad Specialist Notary Company. And I'm like, okay, I'm calling for John. It elongates out the process. Also, it's great to have business cards, and I'm all about having unique business cards, but be careful advertising yourself as a business. And this is kind of 2 things. So I'm a signing agency, and I let people know, because I'm pretty set in business and we're doing really well. I let companies know I own a signing agency, but I only manage out if you allow me to. If you don't allow that, then I'm either available or I'm not. And they respect that. I have about 20 companies that call me all the time that know, and sometimes they say, well, we're in a bind, so yeah, Ronnie, you can do it, but we don't like that. And then we have some that say, no, we have to call another agent, and I'll just give them the names of my great notaries here and let them call them. And I actually have a company that won't let me manage, and they call and say, do you have 4 or 5 names if you're not available? And I give them to them every time. But I have had companies that remove me from their list, me, a great notary, because I own a signing agency, because you become competition. And not knowing if you're a signing agency can put you in a bad predicament. So when you're putting your profile together, you don't want to list your company name. You want to list your name. That's who they're calling to hire. I actually won't hire notaries who say that they're doing a signing agency on these profiles, because I am a signing agency. I can hire those same notaries if they're signed up. And I need someone to be accountable for my documents and the signer's documents. So be careful being unique and having a cool company name. It's better just to be Ronnie Mickle on the internet, or, John Doe or Jane Doe, and have a great phone number and a good bio, than it is to, put all the bells and whistles and things like that. You want to make it very easy for someone who's reviewing profiles, especially if they've never seen you before, to identify you and call you and trust you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, this is Notary2Pro. I'm Carol. In fact, I'll tell you something personal. When I was a young woman, young children, I was a Girl Scout leader and what do you call the boys?
Boy Scout.
Younger. My son was in it and I was the leader. It was, I can't remember now. That's the age. But my nickname was Cookie. It was Cookie. That's what I went by for a long, long time. But then, of course, when I got into the business and everything, I thought, nah, I think I better just stick to my name. But I'm so sorry now that I didn't continue with my nickname. Everybody knew me by Cookie. And I'm always sorry that I'm not Notary2Pro. This is Cookie. Anyway, that was kind of a personal thing. So last but not least, you talked about being careful with the how to answer the phone and everything, but also we talked about complaining.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a lot to say about complaining, and I think it's very interesting because on these forums that people are a big part of, especially in Facebook's gotten really big now. LinkedIn not quite so much, but the Facebook forums are, and you hear it all the time. And let people know who's listening beside the other members.
Absolutely. So I am a notary, so I have every right to be in a lot of these forums, as well as a lot of signing agency owners are also notaries. I am just more visible because I don't hide behind my text messages or my emails, not calling out anyone, but I like people to know that I own my company and I am who I am. Some owners don't have that kind of confidence in themselves or their business, and they hide. We know their names, we've never seen their faces, but they're in these forums. And I will tell you, complaining is not a good idea inside notary forums or on notary sessions. I understand that there are some private groups out there, and that might be a great place to do that. But publicly putting your name out there attached to complaints is not a good idea. We see some notaries that complain about payments. I've actually had notaries write me really nasty emails, and we sent out them an e-check 6 months ago, and they just never logged in and picked up the check, and then they will say, oh, they didn't pay me. Luckily, we don't have any reviews like that because we pay pretty fast. But talking about payments and all of that stuff, you should take that up directly with the company, and there's a way to do that. You're not going to get them to pay you by complaining on the internet. All you're doing is showing that you're a complainer. You don't want to be that. You want to be a business. A business will send a letter. It may even review you. It may even contact the person that you got the title company that you got the business from, if it's been that drastic. But all you're doing when you're complaining on these notary forums is showing people, and I see some of the same people over and over again. I wonder if they're working or if they're just complaining about working. You've got to be very careful because your name is out there. And you don't know if the people you're complaining about are friends with other signing agencies. It's birds of a feather flock together. You're friends with other notaries. You have, you're friends with other people who do mentorship. Notaries are friends with other notaries. We're all tied together in this very, very small niche industry. And complaining about payments is not a good idea. Also, bragging about how much money you make is not a good idea. I understand that there's a lot of companies that promote how much you can make in this industry, and I find those to be almost unattainable goals. That's my personal opinion, not to bring anyone down. I feel like you can make a really great living as a signing agent. My personal best before crossing over into being a signing agency was about 75 to 80, and I was running myself sick, and I find myself to be a great notary, highly sought after. But bragging about how much money you make on internet forums and saying, I made $10,000 this month and all of this stuff, you're not doing yourself any service. You would never go to a loan officer and say, how much did you make this month? You would never go to a title agency. In fact, you may never even be invited back if you're discussing how much people make. I think sometimes people, because we are so independent contractor in this industry, that they forget that this is still a job, this is still a workplace, this is still an environment that has to remain professional. And so I used my previous income as a promotion, and occasionally with close members on my management team, I will tell them the revenue of the company and how much take I get from that. So because I want them to know, because they have incentives to go out and get more business as an affiliate of the business. But other than that, we keep it very private. My notaries don't talk about how much money they make or how much they're paid per signing. If you negotiate, great. But talking about these things can get you blacklisted from companies. If you're a notary that's out there and you say, you know, when so-and-so calls me and I tell them I need $25 more, and then every other notary starts doing that, and they look that up and find out you're the one who posted that, they can't do anything. They can just stop giving you business. And you don't want this to come back and haunt you. So I think it's very important in the talk of getting more business is understanding you're running a business. So you have to kind of be your own HR department, and HR would never let you talk about income with other contractors or vendors or employers.
Good thoughts. I think we're just about finished here. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Yes, I want to talk about direct business. We kind of skipped over that one, and I'm glad we did because I think it's a great finale for this conversation. I wanted to talk about knowing when you're ready and how to approach a title company for direct business and what you should say to them. Okay. First of all, you have to know when you're ready. And I think you should probably wait till you've had 300 to 500 signings, probably 500, before you're ready to walk into a company and say, and I mean consistent signings. I don't mean I did 200 last year and then I did 10 this year. I mean 300 to 500, you know the documents, you know what can happen. And you can work independently, because with a title direct business, you have to work independent. Most title officers are not going to put in an order with instructions. They're not going to send you, you know, how to get in touch with the signers. My direct title clients, they send me an email. Here's the phone number. I think they're in Chandler, and here's the documents. Get it done. And you have to know how to be self-managed. So until you are there, or until you've had mentorship on how to be self-managed, I highly recommend not trying to work with a direct title, because they also have lists and they can get you blacklisted. And if you work for a signing agency, you can't even get through them to that. So knowing when you're ready to walk into a title company. Now, let's say that you are. Let's say that you know how to look at your disbursement date and know when the file has to be back. The EO can just send you an email with a phone number and a general location, and they can send you the documents on a secure link, and you can get there. Now you're ready to walk in to get direct business. And that just brings me up. I think we should do another video at some point about what it constitutes to go after direct business. But when you know that you're ready, the way that I do it, and I actually took 2 or 3 of our notaries out recently. I said, schedule 4 hours with me and I'll show you how this is done. So I walked in, and you know, there's always a front desk. It says no soliciting. To me, in my mind, and this is, I don't want to sound like the car salesman guys that are out there, but in my mind, no soliciting does not mean that I can't come apply for a job. So I'm not trying to sell you something. I'm trying to work. So I don't see no soliciting in my mind. There's a difference between applying for a job and soliciting to a business.
Huge. Yes.
Huge. So I always walk in and I say, I would like to find out how to apply to be a mobile notary with your company. Sometimes I do get sneaky and I say, I'd like to apply for a job and give my resume directly to the branch manager, not mentioning that I'm there to apply to be a mobile notary. And I've actually been called sneaky for that, but I've got business out of it. I bring in a resume, a real valid resume, and I do a lot of things. Sorry, my dog is just wanting to bark. I'm going to, 1 second. So I had to just let him out, because if I don't, he's going to go crazy. He hears something at the door, he's got to go get it. So when you're ready, I take in a resume, I take in a business card, I take in letters of reference. So I ask other EOs that I work with at other companies to write me letters of reference. If I don't have that, I have signing agencies write me a letter of reference. You can write a letter of reference. I can write a letter of reference. I have referred many of our notaries to other companies. You want to go in with the credentials that they're going to need. You want to have your credentials accessible if that person writes you back and says, hey, I can get you on my list, or I can use you, but I need these things. Do not print your W-9, your background check, all of these things, and carry them in a folder in. They may want you to email them to them. I suggest putting, I have the following credentials available to email to you or send to you how you wish, however you want to word that. The reason for that is you're going to give your folder to someone in that office, and you're not employed with them. It could be a receptionist who just takes it and laid it on another counter, and now your information is floating around a title agency who you're not even a client of. So be careful putting your information out there that way. And that was actually taught to me by a title officer who I have a great deal of respect for. But having your credentials ready, you can create little flash drives if you need to and be like, here's my credentials if you're going to hire me. But only give it to them if they say, we're going to hire you and we need that. Or you can say, I can email it to you after, and make sure you have their information.
What I suggest to my students is that they keep a folder on their desktop, and they put all of their credentials in that folder. And then when somebody is ready to take it, it's so easy. They shoot 5 items, 6 items over there, and it's gone. And they have it. You got to be very careful about whose hands these documents go into. And also, one other thing, just for somebody who I haven't already talked to and told, do not put your social security number out there anywhere. If you're working as an NSA, you can go to the IRS.gov and apply for an EIN number. It's free. They issue it usually within a matter of hours. Costs you nothing. You are a business. Whether you've got 1 to 2 employees, doesn't matter. You are entitled to an employer identification number, and that protects your social security number from being out there ever.
And then in closing, for what I wanted to talk about today is going out and getting direct business. Now, we work a lot with notaries who are new, but I know for a fact that a lot of notaries that have been around for a while are watching our videos. And I've gotten some fan mails from them as well saying, Ronnie, I learned something from you today by watching that video. And, I want to save the best for last, but I want to see notaries starting to take back the industry. We went back and said, complaining about SnapDocs, complaining about, signing agencies not paying enough. Go get direct business. If you've done 500 signings, I hear a lot of times, I'll go in and they'll say, they're a smaller title office, or they might have a big name, but just be a small branch. And they'll say, my sister does all my signings. And my favorite thing to say is, that's awesome. She's so lucky. But when she's not available, please keep my card. Let me be your get out of jail free card. Let me be your rainy day card. And I have a lot of people who do not hire me all the time and do not hire my company directly. They hire me when they're in trouble, and I'm okay with that, because it might be the 2-3 hours that I'm just happen to be available, and it fills in that time. I feel like being someone's backup is just as great as honor as being someone's number one. When I got hired for all of this business that we have now, the woman who hired me said, you are not number one. Well, now I kind of am, because I do the nationwide. But locally, she still uses her number one, and he does all of her signings in-house, as much as she can give him, and then we take the overflow. And believe me, one notary can't handle 800 files a month. So even if they're in the house all day, every day, we're both very lucky. But she told me, you are number 2. And I was her backup. And it started slow, and then we built it to what it is today. But I will tell you, being someone's backup is just as honorable as being someone's number one. So don't hear no if someone says, my sister does all my signings. be happy for them. That is awesome. Let your sister do your signings. I'm so glad you have someone you can count on. But if she gets sick, or if she's out of town, or if she needs a day off, please keep my card and call me. That way you have given them a reason to give you a call. Our signing agency operates the same way. When we promote Unlimited Ink, when they say we already use this company, and we tell them we don't want to mess with that relationship, but if they can't fill your order, please call us, because our notaries are local and we're a team and we don't work with everyone else. So you can have access to more notaries. And we get calls from companies that when they can't get it, when they have a rush order, especially in the month. I get calls from people I never thought would call at the end of the month.
Well, you're developing a really great reputation. The people that work with you, I was very concerned when we started working together, because I've worked with a lot of signing services over the years. But when I started talking to so many of the people that were working for you,
With me.
signings for you.
With me. Nobody works for me. With me.
With you. That was the attitude that they came in with. You're always so personable and helpful, and you're really there for them. This isn't just a phony thing that you put up. You're real, and people feel that, and they really love working with you. So I'm pleased to be affiliated with you. I'm not easy to do that, but I'm very cautious, and so it's a good thing. Well, I think we've covered lots of stuff. I don't know how long we've been talking here, but
I think about an hour. We said we were going to do 20 minutes.
Okay. Well, folks, you can always do fast forward. All right, Ronnie. Well, listen, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk, I'm sure, very soon. And I'm anxious to get this out there. So we'll talk after we get off of this.
All right. Thank you so much for being with me today. I know we planned this 2 weeks ago and it didn't work out, and we got right back to it. So I'm ecstatic. Thank you so much. And I'm going to go ahead and end the video, and then I'll give you a quick call.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.